Hello, dogs and humans. This is Making Bacon Pancakes, a podcast dedicated to watching and analyzing every episode of Adventure Time. This is my first time watching the show, but I do know some things about it, including most of the major character names, many of the songs, and a few of the plot points. So this is not a spoiler-free podcast. You have been warned. This is also not really meant to be a reaction series. It is first and foremost an analysis podcast, with the obvious caveat that my analysis can't factor in anything I don't know yet, so I may come to conclusions that are incomplete or outright wrong, which in my opinion is part of the fun. Without further ado, I invite you to come along with me, because it's time for an adventure. Today's first episode is episode 7, Ricardio the Heart Guy. So this is another Ice King episode, which kind of surprised me because I didn't think we'd be getting another one so soon. And this episode has a similar conflict to the first Ice King episode, which is that Ice King feels entitled to women and attempts to inflict sexual violence on them as a result. The twist in this one is that his heart escapes from his body and proves to be just as awful, but also, interestingly, more charismatic. Before enacting his scheme against Princess Bubblegum, Ricardio does engage her in conversation about things she's interested in. He may not be on her educational or intellectual level, but he is still making much more of an effort than Ice King usually does to actually engage with Princess Bubblegum on her own terms. And this, I think, proves that Ice King is entirely capable of engaging with women in a healthier way. He just chooses not to because it's easier to just force them to be with him, and I imagine because he is afraid of rejection as well. I also think it's significant that once Ricardio escapes from Ice King's chest, the two seem to be at odds, and that, absent his heart, Ice King seems to be able to name Ricardio's behavior as bad. That suggests to me that it is Ice King's heart, his emotions, that drive a lot of his evil behavior. This tracks with my read on his character so far, that he is very desperate for love, but also deeply insecure and frightened of opening himself up to rejection, and that this motivates his attempts to bend princesses to his will. It's interesting that Ice King's heart is named Ricardio and not, Simon. I mean, obviously it's a pun on, cardio, heart, but I wonder if it doesn't also speak to a kind of alienation from the self that Ice King may be experiencing. Maybe he feels like he is burying his true self under this Ice King/Ricardio persona. I'm not sure, but that's something for me to keep an eye on as I watch more of the show. Today's second episode is episode 8, Business Time. So on a basic level, this episode is about the value of hard work and why it's not good to be lazy. Finn and Jake want to experience the cool parts of adventuring without the parts that aren't so fun. But life doesn't work that way. The businessmen seek to be as efficient as possible to cut down on the work they have to do, but in the process they make things worse instead of better. Both groups take shortcuts instead of buckling down and putting in the work. I will say I am not a fan of how this episode uses fatness as a punchline to communicate that Finn and Jake are now super lazy. It's a mean-spirited and pedestrian joke that does not belong in children's media. I hope we don't get this kind of joke again. I'm mostly interested in this episode from the lens of Ooo being a post-apocalyptic world, because it seems possible to me that the businessmen are actually relics of pre-apocalyptic human society. If so, then theirs is a bleak tale indeed. They no longer remember anything about their lives other than work. They also cannot conceive of work or labor that exists outside of the business model they have in their heads, where people hire them to make things more efficient. Their identities and histories have been completely subsumed by the capitalist machine, so much so that even hundreds or thousands of years later, I'm not sure when the apocalypse was in the timeline, they still exist only to serve said machine. Their drive to work acts as a kind of inertia that seems to keep them alive, or at least undead, but it also keeps them unchanging, forever subservient to the rules of business they once lived by. Poor little businessmen. That's all for today. If you'd like to reach out to me, whether you want to send me hate mail for my opinions about children's cartoons, or you want to appear on the podcast to discuss Adventure Time or another cartoon you like, you can email me at dominoboonchoipod@gmail.com. I also have a Patreon, link in the description below, where you can get videos 2 weeks early, as well as exclusive access to monthly animated movie discussions. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.